Check, check, check. Oops. Don't want to monitor from that end. There we go. All right, so this is just more or less a shakedown of this. I just changed everything on here. This is just really a shakedown, make sure everything's working the way I wanted it to. I tried recording it once already, and I don't like the way it turned out, and I don't want to be messing around with trying to, get the perfect recording, so screw it, I'm doing this live, which means I'll be stuck with whatever I end up with. Okay, so first couple changes, and you can't really see this on the camera, to this whole setup is I switched my interface. I had the SSL2, which is a brighter, more open sounding interface to the UA Volt 276, which is a much warmer, rounder interface, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. Sorry, I'm going to have to tweak levels as I go here. But plus I can use the compression on here if I see fit. I like using compression in a very light manner, and I got a lot of compression going on here, but none of them are really active. Like right now, none of the compressors are on the board or on, and the compression on the SSL6 here is not even picking anything up. And I don't have any metering on the interface, so there may be some compression going on there. But having said that, that's the big change, at least that's not on camera. So let's walk through the pedal board. The thing that really initiated all this change is this Nano Cortex. It really put me in a situation where I had to rethink how I wanted my signal to flow, because right now I don't know why I would ever use a modeler again. I think the sound on this thing is so fantastic. But it's mono in, stereo out, which means that I couldn't put it at the end of the signal chain. It had to be at the end of the mono section of the signal chain, which is fine. Just had to reconsider how I had my signal flowing. So that's kind of the center of everything right now is the Nano Cortex. And I did capture one of my amps, my Morgan PR5, which is fantastic. It's an excellent capture. But I found a JTM model that is just fantastic. It's that clean, growly Marshall sound. It's actually one of my favorite guitar sounds of all, and it sounds really, really great on here. So that's what we'll be going through today. I'm not using any of the onboard effects other than the noise gate, because the Marshall capture is a bit noisy and there's a lot of line level noise, which actually I don't mind too much. However, when I have all this panning going on, it'll pan the line noise, which can be irritating. So that's one of the changes I think I don't normally do. I don't normally record with a noise gate on anything. So, but my core tone here, so there's 3 rows in this pedal board. The core tone is really the top 2 rows, and then the bottom row and a half here, I guess this Cosmos takes up half a row, are going to be where the micro looping, the granular looping, the regular looping happens, the sampling and the onward, and the reverb. I want the reverbs and the delays separate. That's another thing that I'm trying to accomplish with this setup, and I think it'll work out pretty good. I did one little jam. Like I said, I tried recording this once. I had to tweak the levels a little bit here, but I think we're okay now. So let's walk through the signal chain, which hasn't changed from my last one, I don't think. Fuzz, Warm Audio 76, LA2A style, or a PC2A compressor, Analog Man compressor, all of which are just very lightly, and I'll go through and do sounds here. The Spaceman Equinox, which is the Pultec style EQ that's kind of tweaked for guitar. Then it goes into the Nano Cortex. After the Nano Cortex, one of the things that I had to change because of this Nano Cortex is I want to start using gainy sounds on the Nano Cortex. I don't have any set up yet. We won't be doing that today, but if I had the the looper in front of it and it went into a gainy sound, then the loop would get gain on it, and I don't want that. So the Infinity looper had to go after the Nanocortex. Then we're going up to the buffered splitter. And then the one side of the buffered splitter is going through the rest of what I'm going to call my core tone, which is basically 3 delays. I've got the Binson Echo Rec style, I've got the EP3 style, and I've got the Space Echo style. All 3 of which I have dialed in to use together, but I can certainly do any number of things with any one of them separately or any combination thereof. Into the first 2 channels of the SSL6 as my main left and right. Again, that's my core tone. The other split from the buffered splitter is going down to the Cosmos. And again, we'll do sound samples of this. Into the onward, I move the onward in front of the microcosm. I think that the microcosm handles more dense information coming in better than the onward does, if that makes any sense. So the onward's first. By the way, we're coming out of the Cosmos in stereo into the onward in stereo through the rest of the stuff in stereo. Microcosm using the mosaic effect. And then the Zoya, which I'm currently using my Ghosts patch, which is a ghost verb, an Empress ghost verb, along with 2 randomly recording loopers that randomly get panned left and right. They're octave down, so they're randomly recording and spitting that recording out an octave down, and then it's getting panned left and right, along with a VCA in there, so it fades in and out with the envelope follower. Really love the effect. Now, one thing I had to change, the signal wasn't nearly hot enough for the stereo channel 3 and 4 in the SSL6, so instead of boosting, see all the line noise you get? I had to boost it at the Zoya, which you can do, which is fantastic. I had to boost the Cosmos output a little bit too. Don't know if I have it completely dialed in. We'll see if we get any unsavory gain coming out of that once I start to make a noise here. But that's the split signal chain. Really a core tone coming over to the main 2 channels, and then kind of my wet, spacey experimental tone coming into the stereo channel. And I have a lot of control over that since they're running in parallel. I'll be able to do all kinds of different things with them should I need to. Now, the ultimate goal here is to get I'm still distorting this thing. Back that off a little bit more. I'm still going to use, it's just the compression. I'm still going to use messing with my levels. I'm still going to use the effect sends and returns in this thing. I want to do it right though. I want to get a patch bay. I want to send my chosen effects through the different areas of the patch bay so I can create signal chains internally through a patch bay into here and use this like outboard gear, more like a proper studio rather than a pedal board, which is what I'm doing here. This pedal board will probably never see the floor for the rest of its existence. So having said that, I'm not there yet. So I'm going to move on from that when I get the chance. Again, I just got to shop around for the kind of patch bay I want. And the cables alone for the back end of that SSL are not inexpensive. Okay, so here's all 3 channels. The only thing on is the Ghost patch. And the only reason why I have the reverb on is because without it, I have no output. I had to boost it by like 20 dB, yeah, just to get it loud enough so I can mix it in. And who knows if I'll change that at some point, but about due for some new strings on this guitar. So that's basically nothing. I had nothing turned on except for my post-processing and the Zoya right now, which again has my reverb on it. Okay, so starting off with the Sunface NKT red dot low gain. internally I backed it off a little bit because most of my guitars have audio taper pots or just terrible taper. I think I only have one guitar that has like a real linear taper pot. For rolling off a fuzz, like I don't know why it's in fashion to have audio taper pots on volume position on guitars. I totally prefer a linear taper when I'm trying to dial in a fuzz. Like it almost sounds like I have an on-off switch. And that's not what I want when I'm trying to roll off a fuzz. But it's a real nice fuzz. It gets kind of dirty, but it doesn't get in the way. You don't necessarily hear the fuzz, you still hear whatever's being played. Probably dial in that low end a little bit. Let's cut a little bit more of that low. A nice JTM growl. So for this whole walk through, the Nano Cortex is going to be set on that JTM Marshall capture. And again, the only effect I'm using on here, other than the capture and the cabinet, I think it's a 412 cabinet, is the noise gate, and I have it set to like 10%. So there's the fuzz. That's the first stop. Now we'll start layering in the compression. I don't know if you can see the needle moving there, but just barely coming in at 1 to 3 dB of reduction. Hit it that hard anyway, but again, it's just all it's doing is taming the peaks. Plus, I'm using the transformers in there to really just color the sound a little bit. Just brings it more to the forefront, does something nice to it. Okay. Then into the PC2A, the Effectrode PC2A. Just starting to really bring in that kind of bell shape, a really nice present, get that sustain going on. Nice decay. Boy, these strings are really dying on me. Can hear the Ghosts patch doing its thing in the background. Okay, so the next one is the compressor from Analog Man. And again, as I'm sure you can hear, it does a little something, but not a lot. I'm not hitting anything hard. Just lets that note kind of linger. Then into my Equinox, which is a Pultec. Try and cut a little more of that low now that I got it turned on. Excess. Okay, then into the Nano Cortex, and then this is where things will split. So what I think I'll do here is I'm going to mute So one side, again, goes down to the Cosmos and the rest of the wacky stuff, and then the other side comes straight through these 3 delays. So let's mute the wacky stuff and go straight into the core tone. All right, now we're going to add in the Pompeii T1. As you can hear, I just have it as kind of a slapbacky thing. Really adds that nice Benson kind of mojo to it. Then we're going to move on to the Starlight. Starlight's set up for an EP3. And that's where on this side it goes stereo. Feels a little thick on the low end. Take the boost out, cut a little more. Really unique with a Pultec EQ because you can boost and cut the same frequency at the same time, and it has kind of an interesting smoothing effect. All right, and then we go from the EP3 on the Starlight into the Galaxy. I got the spring reverb, just a real light, no dwell, just a little bit of the spring reverb in there, and then of course the Galaxy tape echo. Which, by the way, with the Starlight on the EP3 is just a wonderful little combination. Nice sustain, nice clear. It's got a little growl to it. A little curious as to how it sounds on the back end. I'm not monitoring. I'm only monitoring out of the console right now. So hopefully it's not breaking up. Hopefully I thinned it out enough with the Equinox. So that's what I'm calling the core side. That's my core tone side. So let's mute those 2 channels. That's left and right channel, and then this is the stereo channel. Now, because I'm having to boost the Empress Zoya by about 20 dB at the end of the signal chain, I got to talk about that first. So the Zoya I'm using, as you can hear, for the Ghost Verb. And you'll hear it mixed in with my core tone, but right now I just want to walk through this side of the signal splitter. So this Ghosts patch is a patch I created, and it is available. Did I upload it? Yeah, I think I uploaded it onto patch storage if any of you have a Zoya. This is modified a little from my original in that because I have it split, I have the signal coming into the outputs 100% out of the mixers and 100% out of the input. So the one I posted online, I want to say I was at about 60%. Don't quote me on that, though. If I go through these changes, I don't document them. But what Ghost is, okay, obviously it's a Ghost verb. But what I did is this is, the left side is an automatically recording looper. And then whenever it pumps out what it's recording randomly, it octaves it down, and then it hits a VCA that's controlled by an envelope follower that fades it in and out, similar to the mosaic effect on the microcosm. Not the same. It's really hard to replicate the mosaic effect on the microcosm. I mean, that's an absolute masterpiece of an effect. So I have 2 of those, 2 automatically recording loopers, randomly recording, and then sending those into a mixer here. And in the mixer, I have 2 LFOs controlled by tap tempo to set the rate of panning between those 2 outputs. So it's the Ghosts, quote unquote, flying around. All right, just bear with me on that one. That's my concept for this effect. Going through the Ghost verb. The Ghost verb One of the issues I had with it in this context is I had the envelope follower set to a logarithmic response. Forgive me, I'm not a master of this. I had to set it to linear response. Otherwise, I was getting some real weird volume swells because of the envelope follower. Because what I did is the envelope follower's decay. I should take that back. I'm setting it through a CV inverter, and then I'm setting it to the Ghost Verb's decay. So when you play, it suppresses the feedback, ultimately letting the performance come through, and then as the performance fades, the reverb comes back in. So it's not quite a gated reverb, it's more of a reactive reverb. So really the transients come through instead of being masked. You don't have to use any pre-delay or anything. This isn't exactly the way I originally made this effect, but I had to kind of modify it on the fly to work in this setting. So that's the Ghost Verb at the end of the chain, being boosted, like I said, by about 20 dB just to get the signal hot enough without creating a lot of line noise. So that's at the end of that side of the chain. To backtrack all the way to the beginning of that side of the chain, it's coming out of the splitter down to the Cosmos. And what I like to do with the Cosmos is create a background pad kind of thing. I like using the second setting on I believe it's just 2 delays going around. So what I do is I get it on record, and for the sake of this video, we will stay in A. And I've been liking A Lydian lately. So we're gonna do some A Lydian notes. Just as an example of what I like to do. And I'll talk about A Lydian if any of you are interested or unfamiliar. So let me set this up though. All right, good enough for this. Okay, so one thing I like to do is, so I've just set up a little pad, right? If you hold down the record button on the Cosmos, I want to say for 5 seconds, as you can hear, it just cut the speed in half, which ultimately lowered the octave, which I like to do quite a bit on this thing. So that's the first step in the wet side of the chain. Then I have it going into the onward. The onward, I have the right side set up for an octave down. I don't like I won't lie, I don't like the modulation on the onward. It feels like they just threw it on there because they didn't know what else to put on there. It doesn't do much for me, and even if I'm doing really wacky sounds with it, because this thing can get very Chase Blissy, but the nice thing about a lot of the Chase Bliss pedals is they can be very musical as well, not just mad scientists. I like making a bunch of weird noises kind of thing. Like, they can be very musical, and in this environment, having it set up like this, it kind of reacts real nice to whatever's being played. And just a quick note on the Lydian. So instead of playing in natural major, I'm playing in Lydian. If you know your modes in position, you just put the Lydian in the first position instead of the Ionian. All the modes are connected otherwise. So instead of the Phrygian being, at the 9th fret, the Phrygian is now at the 4th fret. So onward making various noises. I do have spread engaged, and I do have on the dip switches, I have spread as well as some sort of dampening effect. The onward is in your face if you don't have that dampening effect turned on. And again, if you want to do mad scientist wild noises, it's happy to do that. But in this environment, I just want it to react to what I'm playing and kind of be like a faux accompaniment for whatever I'm playing. So, Lydian mode. So instead of the Ionian in first position, you got your A major chord there, right? Instead of the Ionian mode or the natural major mode, I'm just putting the... Almost forgot where I was there for a second. Now, if you don't know your modes in position, just pretend you're in E major, because E major is the relative natural major. That's the Ionian mode in E major. But if you were playing in E major, that's where the Lydian mode would be sitting, is at the 5th fret. Now, alternately, the relative natural minor would be, what is that, C sharp? So if you want to pretend, if you know a basic major scale or a minor scale, play your basic major scale in E, and if you want to play your basic minor scale, in C sharp, and that would be if you're playing an A major chord. Now remember also for that natural minor, the Aeolian. I don't think about this stuff enough. Remember, your pentatonic scale lives inside the Aeolian mode. I don't know if you can get away with I suppose you could throw a little soulful thing in there. So there you go, Lydian mode, with the Cosmos still going in the background, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then of course into the microcosm. Mind you, we're still only listening to the wet side. We don't have my core tone entered in there yet. And the microcosm's on my mosaic setting. And I see no reason to ever... Man, I wish... I've said this before. I really wish Hologram would come out with just a mosaic pedal. All right, so that's the wet side. Now what I typically do, let's get everything together here. So this is everything together. I'll take the infinity looper and I'll do and I'm sure you've heard me do this a million times. What I typically like to do once I get this bass note is I can quickly, similar to what I did in the Cosmos, I can cut it in half, and that gives me like a nice bass line. And remember, my whole thing is to get in and get out quick, so I'm not gonna get into any arrangements or anything, otherwise I'll find myself sitting here 4 hours later. But what I can do then is, now that I've got my basic loop going, remember, the Infinity 2 is just before the splitter, so we're hearing the Infinity 2 go through the delays and the wet side. So having said that, now I can kind of try and create my a little bit of a guitar rhythm here I can record. Now it blinks like that until it gets to the beginning of the loop, which is a little irritating. I'd rather it record right when I tell it to, but example. I want to hear what it sounds like in a general way anyway. I'm not trying to create a masterpiece here. So typically what I do then at this point is turn on the fuzz, depending on what mode I'm on. And play a little lead. Like I said, we're playing in the A Lydian today. Alright, I'm going to play a little bit, turn my mic off. So hopefully I got enough of a recording here to see what we're sounding like. So another thing I like to do is I can flip this over, tell it to end at the end of the loop, which I happen to be right at the end of the loop. And then what I can do here is just turn the feedback down, which is cool because that means it'll just, each layer will disappear as it ends. And then of course the Ghost patch here is going to have a couple layers of loops that it has to run through as well with its random recordings, which is fine because that all adds to the atmosphere. And that's it. That's my setup as I see it right now. Other than that low end being a little too thick and muddy, I think that this is a pretty decent setup. I don't think I'm going to have to tweak too much. I might have to tweak some levels. I don't like the way the mic pre's or the preamps on the SSL6 only sound good in a kind of a little range, and you got to kind of drive the signal with them, but then I have to keep the output level real low on it. I don't know if I'm going to have to experiment with that because the compressors get hit too hard when you do that. But in any case, I think I'm really liking this sound. So in any case, adios.